first thing any child of the glacier ships learns is the sound of acid rain on salted ice. It is a soft hiss, like distant sand, accompanied by a faint scent of copper that stings the nostrils. To Leo, the hiss was both lullaby and warning. He had been born to it 15 migrations ago, when the ship berg Aurora Nacker still gleamed a bright celeste under the sunless sky. Now the veneer was opalescent, veined with gray, where titrated brine had scorched paths, and the hiss came more often, settling over the decks like an untuned choir. On the outer ledges, crews in rubber stone boots walked the perimeter, carrying buckets of crushed shells and powdered marble. They poured neutralizing slurry into every new pit before the seawater could bore deeper. Each splash triggered thick steam and a squeal, the wearisome song of survival. Above them, sails of woven kelp hung limp. The wind had died at dawn, leaving the shipberg stalled atop the milky acid waves that stretched to every horizon. Without wind, and with the current turning treacherous, even the confidence of elders evaporated. The larger worry, however, lay below the surface, in fissures no slurry could fill. At midwatch, Leo stood beside his mother, Prophet Tessa, on the observation ridge near the berg's heart. A geode-like vault of hollowed ice surrounded them, its walls smooth and luminescent. Tessa pressed her ear to the ice, listening. Around her, candles crafted from rendered krill oil flickered a dull violet. The air tasted of minerals and prayer. She did not speak for several long breaths. She only listened, gloved fingers splayed wide. Leo tried to imitate her, but all he heard was the distant rumble of seas eroding ice, and perhaps his own heartbeat. Prophets, the people said, could hear the future in that rumble. The precise moment a ship would crack open like an egg, sending their civilization into the corrosive deep. Such foresight made them revered, yet also feared. Ice did not like to be told its secrets, and often punished any who whispered them aloud. Finally, Tessa rose, wiping slush from her cheeks. "The berg has changed," she said. "How close?" Leo asked. He had heard the question echo in the minds of every deckhand, every sleeping child. How close to breaking, to calving doom? Too close. Her voice quavered, though she steadied it quickly. She tapped the nearest wall. The chime was a duller than yesterday. "The lens beneath us is thinned. If the main keel snaps, Aurora Nacker will split in 3. We will lose hydrostatic balance and roll." Leo swallowed. During his apprenticeship as brine mechanic, he had studied diagrams of old wrecks. Once proud bergs flipped, their cathedrals shattered, their inhabitants boiled alive in acid. Recollections of those drawings made his stomach hollow. Tessa saw his pallor. "Courage, son. Cure is in knowledge. We will convene the Council of Frost tonight." The council gathered on the summit plateau, an amphitheater carved from the berg when it was young and stout. Torches burned in sconces of polished bone. Steam curled between benches where elders, traders, engineers, and prophets sat shoulder to shoulder. At the heart of the amphitheater, a shallow pool of seawater shimmered in a lead basin, a ceremonial reminder of the world that would reclaim them all. High Captain Girin, a tall woman with a slate-blue cloak, raised her voice. "Prophet Tessa, speak." Tessa stepped forward. "I've listened across 4 sectors. The underbelly trembles. Fissures map a spiral, converging on keel route. The upper shelf will calve within 6 days." She paused, letting silence carve its own groove in the assembly. "We must steer toward Coldhaven Rift, where fresh bergs emerge. There we can graft onto a newborn flow." Murmurs erupted, some hopeful, some skeptical. Coldhaven Rift lay a week's sail east, perhaps more if currents fought them. And the route crossed the Sable Gyre, where acid storms birthed waves high as fortresses. Chief Trader Bellis folded his arms. If we detour, we miss the cobalt harvest at the Leviathan Reefs. Our exchange with the Iron Flotilla depends on it. And if we crack open en route, Tessa countered, all trade is moot. Dead folk pay no debts. The council shifted. Leo watched Captain Guerin's expression. Stern, calculating. She thrived on risk, but she loved her people. The wind has failed, the captain mused. We cannot rely on sails alone. Our crystal turbines need steady breeze. What propulsion remains? Engineer Oren stood, his beard tipped with frost. We've been testing thermal jets, boiling brine in copper coils, releasing steam through vent keels, but each firing melts more ice than we can spare. Leo cleared his throat, surprised to hear himself ask, what of the spare foils stored starboard? If we reinforce them with basalt ribs, we could distribute stress, buy time until we reach the rift. Eyes turned to him. He felt small under their scrutiny, yet Tessa nodded encouragement. Apprentice Leo's idea has merit, Oren admitted. Basalt resists acid longer than ice. Installation would take 2 days. Bellis scoffed. 2 days we could have been sailing. 2 days we might never need, Captain Guerin replied. She turned to Tessa. Your window, 6 days. 5 if the sea warms, Tessa answered. 7 if the spirits favor us, but I dare not count on generosity. Guerin struck the obsidian gong embedded in the basin's rim. By dawn, we mount basalt foils. We prime thermal jets with caution. We sail to Coldhaven Rift. Judgment made, the council dispersed. The torches sizzled out, leaving the plateau to glimmer under the bearded stars. Leo walked his mother back to the prophetic quarters, their boots crunching thin frost. He heard the berg sigh around them, as though relieved by decision, yet pained by its own weakness. Inside the quarters, ice walls glowed faint cyan. Shelves held scrolls of hoarfrost, records of migrations past. Tessa stopped before a chart inked with pollen dye. A spiral of voyages across the world's white cap, each ring marking generations. I remembered my first prophecy tonight, she said, brushing the scroll. I was younger than you. Our previous berg, Shiver Pearl, also groaned beneath us. I foresaw the crack, but I misjudged by hours. 43 souls perished. Her eyes shone with old grief. That was the night I vowed never to understate risk. Leo placed a hand on her shoulder. You haven't failed us. We will make the rift. She smiled, though it was brittle. Prophets see cracks outside and within, Leo. Do not let fear carve you hollow. He nodded, uncertain what wisdom to distill from that. Outside, the hiss of rain began anew, a reminder that the world eroded everything, even conversation. Over the next 2 days, work consumed them. Crews hauled basalt blocks, scavenged long ago from volcanic islands now dissolved, and forged ribs using acid-resistant glue brewed from kelp sap. Leo labored with Engineer Oren, chiseling slots into the berg's starboard flank. Every stroke echoed a dull complaint from the ice. They fitted each basalt rib like a splint over a fracture, then slid spare crystal foils beneath, locking them into joints. When they lowered the final foil, a cheer rose, though it faltered as a tremor shook the decks. Fissures laced across the installation site, but held. For now. Meanwhile, Tessa and the Ice Chorus, her circle of junior prophets, charted micro-vibrations. They moved like priests in a sick ward, diagnosing invisible fractures, whispering reassurance. At each reading, Leo sought his mother's gaze, hunting for hope. Her calm face never wavered, yet a crease deepened between her brows. On the third dawn, Gray winds arrived, blowing from the far south. Sailmasters unfurled the kelp canvas. Each sheet opened with a whip crack. Aurora Naker lurched forward, creaking as she gained speed. Thermal jets fired in measured bursts. Plumes of steam hissed along vent keels, propelling them across jade water. The acid sea spat spray that smoked against hull and boots alike. Still, everyone breathed easier. Progress meant promise. They crossed the first day's distance without calamity. Nights were darker than pitch. Only bioluminescent plankton traced the wake in sickly green. The younger children pressed faces to ice portholes, marveling at drifting sparks, unaware that the same chemical glow hinted at acidity lethal enough to melt bone. On second night underway, Leo slept in the apprentice bunkhouse, dreams filled with twisting ice corridors. A sudden tilt threw him from his cot. Sirens wailed, whalebone trumpets echoing disaster tones. He scrambled to his boots and raced toward midships. The deck slanted starboard, barrels rolled, lanterns crashed. Crew shouted, "Counterweight! To port!" A fissure had opened beneath the newly installed basalt foil. Leo saw it, a black gash spitting brine. Through the gap, foaming acid poured, chewing the ice from inside. Panic glittered in eyes of workers brandishing shovels and sealant. Then Tessa's voice rang across the chaos, amplified by the speaking conch. "Hold lines. Stabilize port side. Bring ballast forward." She stood at rail, hair whipped by wind, composure carved in marble. Lio joined Orin, applying sealant, a mixture of wax, powdered bone, and pearlescent resin, onto the breech's lip. Heat from the acid made the mixture bubble. Each time they smoothed a layer, another section flaked. Minutes blurred, Arctic sweat stung Leo's eyes. He thought of children sleeping above fumes. At last, the fissure slowed. Additional braces wedged against both sides, muffled further spread. Crew collapsed, chests heaving. Captain Guerin ordered a status report. Orin answered, "Temporary salvation, Captain." But that was a warning. Structural integrity down 20%. Guerin turned to Tessa. "Profit?" Tessa inhaled as though air itself might give kinder answers. "We have 2 days, 3 at most." The captain nodded grimly. "Double shifts. Keep sails full. We will sprint until the keel surrenders or Cold Haven greets us." By dawn, exhaustion spread, but tasks continued. Leo forced himself upright, hands blistered, mind a fog. He visited the nursery, where toddlers crafted paper glaciers, oblivious to reality. Their caretaker smiled, fragile as rime, thanking him for bringing fresh water, distilled by condensing acid vapor into purity. Even survival here required turning poison into drink. On deck, clouds thickened, swirling alabaster and onyx. The sable gyre lay ahead. Acid storms brewed there, stirring fragments of lost bergs like teeth in a giant maw. Navigators consulted star compasses, calibrating for turbulence. Leo sometimes envied their work, pure math and magnet lines, free of prophecy's dread. Mid-morning, the wind intensified, but from an irregular vector. Sails strained, masts groaned. Spatters of black rain peppered the berg, sizzling louder than usual. Sailors shouted warnings. Some skin blistered where droplets landed. They donned thicker oilskins, eyes burning. The gyre welcomed them with walls of swirling water. Captain Guerin ordered partial reef. Too much sail would capsize them. Too little, and they'd spin inside the vortex. Thermal jets pushed in counter-spiral bursts, steering toward high-pressure corridor. Lightning arced, violet on gray, lighting alien towers of foam. During a lull, Tessa beckoned Lio to the central temple, an ice dome resonant like a bell. "Come," she said. "I need your ear." They stood upon a translucent floor. Below, he could see seawater roiling in turquoise fury. Tessa placed his hand atop a thin pillar of hourglass. "Listen again." He obeyed, ear to the cold. The vibrations were stronger now, less like rumble and more like cracking knuckles, distinct pops, irregular yet frequent. "What do you hear?" she asked. He chose honesty. "Breaking bones." "Yes," she whispered. "The berg is old. It carried us since before you were born. Every mile has been bargain against decay. Tonight, in the eye of the gyre, it may ask its final price." Her calm unsettled him. "There must be solution." "There is," she replied. "But it isn't saving the berg. It's saving the people." She handed him a folded parchment. Within, a sketch. Lifeboats carved from the berg's own chunks, sloped like petals around a crystalline hub. When the keel snaps, the outer shelf will shear off first. If we pre-score seams, we can guide the break, fashioning pods that float long enough to reach newborn ice. Leo stared at the design. "You want to make the calving itself our escape?" Tessa nodded. "Ice listens better when we shape its death." In all his lessons, Leo had been taught to mend, not surrender. The idea felt like blasphemy and brilliance simultaneous. "Does the captain know?" "Not yet. I need you to convince her." The storm's roar pressed into the dome, as though eavesdropping. Leo folded the parchment, heart pounding. "She values trade above all. Without a hull, there's nothing to trade." "Convince her that without lives there's no one to trade," Tessa said, a sad chuckle. "Go." He found Captain Guerin on the command ridge, knuckles white upon the wheel. Spray lashed them, leaving pockmarks on rail. Leo could barely hear above wind, but thrust the parchment forward. Guerin skimmed it, jaw tight. "You're asking me to dismember my ship," she said. "To let it dismember itself under supervision," Leo corrected. "Pods will hold 36 each. We detach near the rift. Tides will ferry us to fresh bergs." Guerin's eyes, storm gray, narrowed. "No guarantee pods survive acid. Basalt ribs line their keels, neutralizing slurry sealed in double hull. We've tested materials. This is our highest chance." Guerin looked past him toward Prophet Tessa, emerging atop the stairs. Their gazes met. Mutual respect, friction, acceptance. The captain exhaled. "Gather your team. Mark the seams. We have until nightfall." Thus began the harvest of their own home. Crews, eyes glassy with disbelief, cut channels into roof ice, shaping petals along predetermined arcs. Children were evacuated inward, taught songs to mask the sound of saws. Engineers inserted basalt caps, embedded flotation bladders of sealed hide filled with freshwater vapor. Lio supervised starboard pods, his arms leaden yet driven by adrenaline. As dusk bled through charcoal clouds, the gyre's eye calmed, a deceptive hush. Sailors said the sea gathers breath before screaming. Tessa delivered final prophecy to gathered populace in the amphitheater. "Do not fear the snapping of our cradle. Fear only despair. Hold to one another, and you will hold to life." Families assigned to pods filed to embarkation points. People touched bulkheads they had carved, kissed ice that had sheltered generations. Leo watched an old stonemason leave a hammer embedded in a wall, a tribute to tools no longer needed. The first crack came at third bell, a thunderous snap reverberating through every footstep. The keel route had failed. Alarms blared. Ordered chaos began. Pod hatches closed, locking resin seals. Leo and Oren secured final latches. Overhead, the sky swirled luminous mauve, lightning forking like capillaries. "Launch starboard pod 2, Oren ordered. Crew released anchor braces. A groan, then sudden slide. The pedal pod detached, drifting away on foaming acid, steam pluming from its basalt belly. straps of kelp rigging unfurled, forming primitive sails. Leo saw silhouettes within pressing palms to port windows, wide-eyed but alive. Another crack, deeper, louder. The berg's main body split, a canyon opening from bow to stern. Leo nearly lost footing. He and Oren dashed toward port pods where Tessa waited, staff in hand. Guerin's voice boomed over trumpets. "All hands to evacuation!" A section of deck collapsed, swallowing railings and an unused lifeboat. Leo leapt over Fisher, heart banging. Acid spray hissed at heel of boot. He grabbed his mother's arm, guiding her into Pod 3. Oren dived in after them. 2 sailors followed. "Seal!" Tessa commanded. Leo twisted wheel to shut Iris hatch. Internal crystals glowed faintly, luminescent algae powering salvation. Through viewport, they watched Aurora Naker tear open like parchment in flame. Spires toppled, masts splintered. Yet, between cataclysms, pods unfurled and drifted away, luminous beads amid violent dark. The calving produced waves radiating outward. Their pod rocked, joints creaking but holding. Neutralizing slurry sloshed between hull layers, hissing softly. Leo monitored gauges, pH stable, flotation positive. In corner, a toddler whimpered. Tessa hummed lullaby older than ice. Soon, distance swallowed the roar. All that remained was low rumble and acid rain pattering on basalt roof. Leo sat beside viewport, tears he hadn't sensed freezing on lashes. He had lost home, but looked upon future. In the near distance, shards of glacial blue birthed from Coldhaven Rift rose like new continents. The newborn flows glimmered pristine, unscored by acid, each a promise. Dawn crept across horizon, revealing a flotilla of pods scattered yet intact. Some expelled orange smoke, signal of minor injury. Others flew green flags, safe. Captain Guerin's banner, a stylized snowhawk, waved atop Pod 0. She had survived. Tessa placed hand on Leo's. Ice is memory. Even when shattered, it floats forward. Leo gazed at her, then at the newborn bergs. "We will build again," he murmured. "And we will teach them," she added. "That prophecy is not doom. It is warning and possibility." By midday, pods reached the literal shelf of a nascent berg. Ropes were secured. Pioneers carved footholds. Leo was first to step onto raw ice, feeling it sing beneath his boots. High, vibrant, free of cracks. Acid spray hissed at its edges, but core remained strong for now. Children followed, laughing despite fatigue. Traders salvaged ledgers. Engineers unpacked tools. Prophets knelt, ear to virgin frost, listening. High on a ridge, Captain Guerin addressed the survivors. "We leave behind hull and memory, but carry skill. Let this berg bear a new name, Calvang Grace." Cheers rose, mingled with sobs. In quiet after, Tessa turned to Leo. "The world beyond this sea once held forests," she said softly. "Perhaps our children will glide there one day on glacier wings. But before that, we must teach them the song of slurry and basalt, and above all, the value of listening." Leo surveyed the horizon. Pods still landing, waves still hissing, sky vast. He felt weight of grief and wonder entwined. The acid sea remained merciless, yet they had learned to carve safety within its bite, to ride inevitability like wind. Night settled again, gentler now. Stars reflected off wet ice, a breathtaking mirror. Leo stood watch with fellow survivors. They planted the first mast into fresh berg, raising sails woven from salvaged kelp. Wind filled canvas, snapping crisp melody. The berg began its maiden drift, small but determined. Below, cracks would form, prophets would listen, engineers would brace, children would grow. Civilization, like ice, would fracture and reform, migrating across generations. And as the glacier ship steered toward dim constellations, Leo whispered promise to the sea that wished to eat them. We will not be unmade. We will migrate, adapt, and carry memory forward, like frozen stars across your corrosive dark.